Okay, so this is the graphing tutorial for experiment 6 for your discrimination graph. So what you want to do is look at the data that you took for every 1-minute interval. So remember that the SD or light on condition lasted for 40 seconds. So that's here, what I'm looking at here on the left side of my chart, which is the SD light on condition. And then in the S delta condition, the light was off for 20 seconds. So that's a total of 1 minute. So every interval is going to be 1 minute. You are going to graph every single interval of data that you have. So in your first session, you did this for 45 minutes, which means you'll have 45 intervals. Some of you might have 44. I know the system may have stopped right after the 44th minute. That's fine if it did. You'll have 44. If you ran 2 sessions of this, 2 full 45-minute sessions, so 2 labs, then you'll have 90 intervals. Okay, so it just depends on how long you ran this experiment for. So everyone's going to be slightly different. For my example, I have 13 1-minute intervals here. So I'm going to show you how to graph this. But again, remember, you may have more intervals. All of you will have at least 45 intervals, and some of you may have more than that. Okay, so the way we're going to graph this, in the B column on your Excel graph, so first row B column, we're going to put SD light on. And then in the C, we're going to put S delta light off. So these are our 2 conditions that we're graphing here. I'm just going to make this bigger so we can see the writing. Now, like I said, I have 13 intervals, so I'm going to put that here on the left-hand side. You guys will have at least 45, so you'll want to put 1 through 45 here in the A column, starting in the second row. So notice my 1 starts in row 2 here, okay? And like I said before, you guys are going to go all the way down to 45 at least, okay? Some of you ran 2 of these sessions, so you'll do even more than that. And then what you're just going to do is input the data. So my first interval here in the light on condition, my rat pressed the lever 20 times. And in the light off condition, she pressed the lever 13 times. Then I go to my second interval. Again, 20 presses. In the light on, in the light off, 13. This is data I made up. So your rats will definitely have different responding, more varied responding than this. So I'm just going to go through each interval and input the SD and the S delta responses. 4, 15. Kind of boring data, but because I made it up, so it's not very good data. Your guys' graphs will look a lot better than this. 4, 5, 6, 15, 20. It's like I did 13 and 20 a lot. Okay, and then I achieved discrimination. So I have 13 and 0 in the S delta light off condition, 10 and 0, 10 and 0. Okay, so again, just to be clear, you will all have at least 45 intervals that you'll be inputting your data on. Some of you will have more than that. Some of you will have up to 90 if you ran 2 full sessions. Some of you will have somewhere between 45 and 90, depending on when you achieved discrimination and when you stopped your session. Okay, now we're going to make our graph. So highlight all of your information. Go to insert. Again, you want an XY scatter plot. And it should look something like this, where you have two data paths. I'll make it a little bit bigger so people can see it a little bit better here. I had 13 intervals, so you guys will have at least 45. So down here on the x-axis, yours will go all the way up to at least 45 or longer. And I have two clear data paths. So I have my blue, which is my light on. This is how many times my rat pressed the lever when the light was on. And this is how many times my rat pressed the lever when the light is off. Now, typically I make you guys change the data paths to black. For this graph, I'm not going to make you do that. It looks kind of cool having different colors for like a light on, light off effect. So if you want to make these like red and green, kind of like they were on your experiment, if you just want to leave them the colors they are. For me, it just kind of looks weird having them be colors, just because I'm used to seeing them in black and white. So I'm actually going to change mine to black, and I'm going to do open and closed circles. But you can do different markers, you can do them all black, or you can do different colors. For the discrimination graph, I'm okay with them being slightly different. But remember that the line still needs to be 1 point width. Okay, so make sure that whatever you do, you make sure that the line is at least 1 point width, the data line. So I'm just changing right here. Again, my line's going to be 1 point. I'm making it black. So as you can see, my S delta or light off condition is an open circle, and then my light on is the closed circle. And what you should see if you got discrimination is you should see presses on your light on and then eventually 0 presses on your light off. Just like always, we are going to fix the size of the chart. So I'm going to give myself a little room for my X and Y axes. We want to make sure that this is with the right proportions. So I'm going to make it a 4x6. There we go. Make sure everything is in Times New Roman, a minimum of 12-point font, and black. We don't want anything to be gray, so make sure that it is black. Everything is dark gray. And then remember, we want to do our tick marks. Now my x-axis is in increments of 2. Yours might do increments of 5 if you have 45 or more. I'm okay with whatever you would like to do. If you want to do it in increments of 5 or increments of 2, I'll show you how to change that. Over here in x-axis options, this little button that looks like a bar graph here, the major units are what are going to be the distance between each data point or each tick mark. So right now mine is in increments of 2. You could make it in increments of 5 and then it would look like that. I'm going to leave mine in increments of 2, but you can do whatever you would like in terms of that. And then I'm going to make my y-axis black as well. Times New Roman, font size 12. Make sure that everything is black. I want it to be black, not dark gray. Again, we want the tick marks to be major type outside. And there we go. I'm going to take the chart title off. You can leave yours on if you would like. I'm going to, under chart design, input my axis titles. These should also be Times New Roman and black, minimum of font size 12. So make sure you change those. A lot of people's graphs sometimes are in gray, and I give you feedback on that. So make sure that you're always changing everything to black. The default in Microsoft Excel when you're doing graphs is gray for some reason. So you need to make sure you go back in and change it to black. Okay. Let's see. Number of our presses. And this is 1 minute intervals. I'm going to make sure that my legend is also Times New Roman. This font size can be slightly smaller. I'm going to make mine 12 or 10. You can make it 12 if you want. And again, make sure that it is black, but it needs to be Times New Roman minimally. And then finally, move this over a little bit too. I'm going to put my rat's name in here, so I'm going to insert a text box right here. Make sure it's centered. Again, Times New Roman, font size 12, make sure it's black. And also make sure for your shape option that the line around the box is black. And that is what it looks like. I'm going to make it just a teeny bit smaller. Okay. And then finally, I'm going to highlight the whole graph, make sure there's no line or no border. And there's your discrimination graph. For all of those minor details in terms of like turning things black, changing your font size, doing the outside tick marks, if you need a slower demonstration of what that looks like, remember the very first videos I posted, I think for experiment 3 graph on Canvas. That video goes over all of those details much more slowly, but this is what your discrimination graph will look like when you are done with it.